Hi, this is Captain Everyman with another movie review. I love M. Night Shyamalan movies. I especially enjoy the twist in the movie. It makes it so interesting, wondering when it's coming and what it's going to be. And I tried the best I could not to hear about this movie Split. And I'm glad I didn't. I mean, I heard a little bit about it, but I knew nothing really about it. But this is the shocking thing that happened to me. This was the most disturbing movie that I have ever seen. And I mean, there's nothing even compares to it. I know there's been horror movies with gore, and it wasn't the most gory one, but just the thought of what these people went through, these girls that had been abducted, and even more so, it explored how horrible being a human being can be, the things that sometimes we have to endure. And the most disturbing part of the movie wasn't even the fantastic part with the man. And I let you know, I'm going to give some spoilers. I'm not going to give the ending to the movie. But I am going to do spoilers. If you don't want to hear those, now's the time to stop. But there were two stories in the movie, basically, an A and a B story. One was about the serial killer who abducts these girls and holds them, and all the strange drama that ensues because he has dissociative identity disorder. Unlike Psycho, where he was just two people, this guy has, like, I think 23 or more personalities. We don't see them all, I don't think, but we see a good number of them. And the thing that made it disturbing too is the victim cycle. You realize that a person who becomes literally a monster like this, who murders people, that usually there was a trigger there. And this man was abused as a child. And that's what DID is, it's my understanding. It's an attempt to protect yourself, your ego. You splinter into all these different people, and it's an elaborate web you're weaving, like a safety net, to keep people out and to keep the hurt away. And this man had gone through that, and it shows how sort of this lack of respect for people's boundaries, which is what happened to him, led to him having this horrible reaction that the movie's about. But even more so, it was horrifying. The thought of these girls being attacked and abducted was horrifying. But on an even more personal level is the heroine story. And she had endured something in childhood and throughout her life that was so unspeakably horrible that it disturbed me for days, the thought of it. I had to wait a couple days to go back and look at the movie, because I like to look at movies twice and enjoy them. And I get to look at the cinematography and so on. But this was a disturbing movie. So disturbing, because nobody should have to endure. Even though I knew this was only a fictional character, just the thought that somebody would go through this. Now, I don't know, I bet some people missed it, but it's implied, and you get it, that this woman is violated in her childhood. And the horrible twist is that she is forced to actually take her abuser, and the abuser becomes her guardian. So she's literally been raised by somebody who was sexually abused her in childhood, and she has to endure that. And you think about how if somebody's murdered, of course that's horrible, but they die and it's over. But she has to have a living death of having to deal with that, and that was just almost impossible for me to even contemplate in my mind. Now, the movie's well done. The acting is all really good. James McAvoy does an awesome job. And the strange thing about the movie is there is comic relief in it, which was hard to really accept. I think maybe in this day and age we're more jaded, that we can accept that somewhat. And of course, we didn't really know what was going to happen. And we knew that he abducted the girls, and he had them, and we went through the drama with them. But I would recommend the movie, but I would say I don't really remember the rating for this movie, but there's no way in the world this wasn't an R movie. And I think somebody told me it was PG-13. And that's, to me, unacceptable. This was horrifying. This is horrifying emotionally. This isn't horrifying like gore where people get decapitated or blood's flying everywhere, but it was horrible just contemplating what the victims endured. And this is the other thing that's disturbing. It's horrifying what he endured. It's horrifying what he endured. The actual villain, the actual antagonist. And to think that he had been traumatized to the point that he became this desperate person who lashed out in this horrible way. And to get away from that, it's also good. I mean, one of my favorite movies was a movie called Unbreakable of M.Night Shyamalan's. And I always thought, this movie's worthy of a sequel. This could be a good movie where either the villain he defeats comes back, because, these villains don't stay gone. They always come back to fight another day. They get locked up, whether it's the Joker or whoever, and then they get out and they have at it again. Well, I was thinking maybe Mr. Glass could team up with somebody, and maybe Bruce Willis' character could team up with somebody else. We could have more traditional superhero movie. Well, not to give a huge spoiler, but there's going to be a tie-in to this movie, and I'm really looking forward to it. But to give you a rating on this movie's near a 10. It really is. Now, there's weaknesses there, but it was pulled off very well, and there's so much that it gives you to think about as far as the range of human emotions and experiences. And like I said, it's disturbing and horrifying, but much like, I don't know, the ancient stories of Oedipus, like I like to tie our stories now to those ancient stories. There's something about it that gives us the ability to consider our own plight and maybe see it as not as bad. Once we realize how horrible it could be, it kind of gives us some kind of a boost, I think. But this movie's probably like a 9.5 at least. And if you like M. Night Shyamalan movies, it's a must-see for you, and it was very well done.